Good afternoon, everyone. We are just getting ready to get this press conference underway. You'll hear some remarks from the sheriff. We're also joined by the Assistant Chief of San Jose Police Department. So with that, Sheriff Jonsen.
Good afternoon. I'm going to rearrange some of your mics here for a moment. Hopefully you can hear me. So, hi, I'm Bob Jonsen, Jonsen, Sheriff for Santa Clara County. As you may already be aware, we had an officer-involved shooting last night at 7:28 p.m. In the city of San Jose. The incident where the driver was acting erratically based on the onset of that traffic stop. Tactical considerations were made. The deputy pulled back, called in other resources. We spent over 2 hours utilizing our resources at our disposal, as well as our psychiatric emergency response team that, for those that may or may not know, is where we have a deputy with a mental health clinician together in the car. They responded. We were able to establish communication. With all the efforts made in that area, we still were not able to get compliance with the suspect. Ultimately, after numerous attempts and working on slowing down this incident as best we could by utilizing all the resources at our disposal, we had the suspect come out of the vehicle. We used several options at our disposal. Again, we have less lethal options available to us. We utilized both of those in an attempt to gain his compliance for a peaceful resolution, none of which were effective and ultimately resulted in the officer-involved shooting. We had 2 deputies involved in that shooting. We will not be releasing their names today. Interviews still have to be conducted, so we'll get those to you when we can. We had several other individuals that were involved in this incident, not only in addition to the psychiatric emergency response team, but other resources and deputies that were at the scene. Again, interviews are still being conducted. It's very early on in this investigation, so I'm hoping that you have patience with us as we continue those interviews. I will say this, this type of event is traumatic for all involved. And we want to convey our condolences to family, but also to the staff involved. These are highly charged emotional incidents, so we're looking out for our personnel as well. I will say, based on what I know at this particular moment, they did an incredible job trying to control this situation and have a peaceful resolution. But as you know, in all our efforts, we always aspire for a perfect outcome. And unfortunately, that's not always possible. In this case, there's that example of a loss of life. We will continue to provide resources for our personnel as needed, and we will continue to be as accountable and transparent as possible throughout this investigation. We are working with San Jose Police Department, who's been conducting the investigation as is required with our county officer-involved shooting protocol. District Attorney's Office, medical examiner, all part of this equation. And again, we'll continue to be transparent with them and with you, the community, as best we can throughout this process. But again, we ask for some patience due to the fact that there are numerous interviews that still have to be conducted, and it's usually a fairly lengthy process to get all the information correct and the facts as best we can. So thank you for that.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned that there were 2 non-lethal options that you relied on. What were those?
Yeah, so we have pepper ball, OC spray. It's pepper ball deployment, which shoots chemical projectiles. Those were used to try to gain compliance into the vehicle. And then we have a 40 millimeter. Those are our only 2 less lethal options. 40 millimeter, as you may know, is a rubber projectile that's shot. That was utilized as well, again, with very, very little impact or effect on the suspect. And then ultimately he charged the deputies with the knife in hand, causing us to use lethal force.
While he was outside the vehicle they were used, or while he was inside the vehicle?
No, the pepper balls we used to deploy into a vehicle to gain compliance, to get somebody to come out. Those were used both before his exit of the vehicle and after he exited the vehicle, once there was a realization he was in possession of a knife. That's when the 40 millimeter was also utilized, when he was outside the vehicle in possession of a knife, in the hopes that he would drop it and comply.
None of that worked?
Neither of those worked. None of that worked. And again, at this moment, those are our two less than lethal options available for our patrol personnel.
You had given up tasers several years ago. Do you think if we had that option, would that have made a difference at all?
Yeah, the question just for those that may not have heard it, was the option of taser, would that have made a difference? Listen, I don't have a crystal ball, but I will say this. It is a conversation we've been having with our board. I personally believe that would have been another option for us to utilize. And in this situation, I think they had the space and the cover and distance with the new Taser 10, as we've been seeing in our custody facilities, to where there would have been a higher probability of a safe outcome. But again, that is speculation because we don't have them. They weren't utilized, so I don't know if it would have been effective or not.
And the amount of time that passed from the time officers came upon this person, stopped, and when he was shot.
Right. So almost, and you have it in the press release earlier today, we're talking 2 hours. 2 hours from the time the initial stop was made, trying to get him to gain compliance. He had plenty of opportunities to comply, exit the vehicle peacefully, and be taken into custody. But it was almost slightly over 2 hours is when the officer involved shooting occurred, after he had exited the vehicle.
Do you think he was having a mental health crisis?
We don't know that right now. We do believe that that is probably a component. We also believe there may be alcohol involved. So until all those investigations are completed, I can't say with certainty.
What was
Sheriff,
the
can you
initial
elaborate
reason?
why the initial stop was made?
It was for a traffic violation, and again, until that deputy is interviewed, we don't know if that was the sole reason for it or what the nature of that was.
And you make traffic stops in the city? As
Oh, we
opposed
do
to
all the
outside?
time. And again, until the interview is conducted, it was, as you know, the location is very close to our boundaries. So a lot of times deputies will see somebody or witness a traffic violation and the stop will actually go into another city's jurisdiction, but it does happen.
Were the deputies involved wearing body-worn cameras?
Yes, all the cameras were activated. We have tremendous coverage, and again, that'll be part of the investigation. All that information has already been turned over to San Jose Police Department for review. But the body cameras were activated. We also utilized a drone, so a lot of it was captured from an overview. So we have tremendous coverage of this particular incident.
Was he running away?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Was he running away or towards?
No, and I think that's really an important distinction, because I think some people have already implied he was running away. Clearly, when you see the video, he was running at the deputies. There's no misunderstanding in my mind of what his intention was.
Where were the deputies in relation to the suspect?
They were all behind cover, and they were all tactically positioned in a configuration to really hopefully gain compliance. But I'd say again, until all the investigation's complete, I'm not going to speculate at how many feet, but they were definitely a good distance away behind cover, trying to get him to comply.
Sheriff, could you explain what the impetus for the non-lethal or the less lethal options were? Like, your press release earlier talked about trying to slow the situation, trying
Right.
to de-escalate. What was the impetus for trying to get him out of the car with those projectiles and the 40 millimeter?
Yeah, and again, without knowing all the details of every interview that's been conducted by every individual that was out there, some of this would be speculation, but I do know and am aware that there was hopes to get him to peacefully comply. We had already utilized our clinicians who had made connection with him, so we did have good communication. There was communication both in English and Spanish many times, trying to gain his compliance out of that car. So ultimately it came to a point where they utilized the pepper balls in hopes of enticing him to come out peacefully, and I think there was a moment where we thought that was going to be the outcome. It turned quickly once he exited the vehicle with the knife, and we know what the outcome was.
Can you talk about, again, in the press release earlier mentioned that he had ignored these de-escalation efforts, but you're saying there was communication with him, with the clinicians and with the teams there. Could you give us any more insight as to what that communication entailed?
No, and that's what I don't know. I wasn't there, so I don't know exactly what the communication was. That will be determined through the interviews with all the involved personnel. But we do know there was communication established, and we do know that commands were given both in English and in Spanish.
Was he
Sir,
in the
was he-
vehicle
Multiple
alone?
times.
In the vehicle alone?
Yes, he was in the vehicle alone.
Would you communicate with him through a cell phone, or was it?
Yeah, there was both. There were verbal commands, and then there was a connection at one point, I believe, through cell phone. He had given us his cell phone, and we were able to establish a call.
And he was communicating, there wasn't a language barrier.
It doesn't appear so. I mean, again, we had communication and even on the phone, my understanding, with a Spanish speaker.